What's happening, people? Welcome back to the show. This is the Upper Tier. I am your host, Niall, and today we're going to be taking a look back at the World Cup. We'll be going through the groups, and we'll be highlighting some of the key issues within those groups. Then we're going to take a look at the round of 16, and then we're going to try and plot our way all the way through to the final. So if you're in the chat and you fancy doing that, jump on. Let us know your thoughts for the round of 16. Also, let us know your thoughts for the groups stages, how you're generally feeling about the World Cup in general. Um, are you enjoying it? Are the issues overshadowing the enjoyment of the World Cup or whatever it is? Let us know what your thoughts are on that. But yeah, we'll get into it and we'll go down through group by group initially, and then what we'll do is look at the round of 16 and then plot our way quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. We'll also have a look at some of the Opta stats. They've been predicting some of the teams and where they think those finalists and stuff are going to come from. So you can let us know those in the chat as well. And we'll see where the journey takes us. So let's start off. Let's take a look at Group A. And Group A, of course, was the host nation Qatar, who probably have been one of the worst performers in terms of a host nation in a long time. But we had the Netherlands, Qatar, Ecuador, and Senegal in this group, so not an easy group. And of course, started out, of course, all the way back on Sunday, 20 November 2, got off to a really poor start. Held in for a little bit, but suddenly Ecuador took off and took control of the game. Then later on the Monday, we had the Netherlands versus Senegal. This was the late show, if you remember. I think the first goal came in the 88th minute, and the second one was deep into injury time, I think 96th minute or something like that. But Zealand went for the Netherlands and getting them off to a good start. Of course, Senegal, it's a tough one for them, losing Mane Talisman is huge, so not easy when you lose a player like that. Second round of games came then. It was the Netherlands 1, Ecuador 1. Not a great result and a very, very blunt performance. And Qatar 1, Senegal 3. So Senegal getting their World Cup campaign off to a start there in that second game. And then we rounded it out. Then with the Netherlands 2, Qatar 0. And Ecuador 1, Senegal 2. So Senegal and the Netherlands progressed out of Group A. Not surprising. Group B, which of course is England's one. So you got England, Iran, Wales, and the USA. England obviously getting off to a flying start. A great performance against Iran, winning 6-2. Gave away two needless goals really against Iran, but the 6 goals that they scored were absolutely fabulous. England looked like they really on it. And then the USA and Wales drawing 1-1. The USA announcing themselves to the world of soccer. Got in there and put on a real good performance. Some really good young players there. And of course, the boy Tyler Adams from Leeds and all being the captain and stuff like young age. A lot of weight on his shoulders carrying this USA team, but nevertheless did a really, really good job. Second round of fixtures, England, USA 0-0, a real blunt game, a real blunt performance. A lot of English fans calling out Southgate in terms of his substitutions and players he used and all that kind of stuff. And a little bit of discontent starting to creep in. Wales, of course, getting beaten by Iran 2-0. Wales having a disaster of a campaign, really, just players too old. Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale really past their best at this stage. Morris is in the comments. How are you, Morris? To see you there. Of the week, Morocco to beat Spain and Japan to beat Croatia. Morris, you'll want to stay tuned to these predictions if that's what you're thinking, because me and you are very much thinking along the same lines in terms of this World Cup, but I won't give anything away, but that's a tidy little bet. But yeah, it was a blunt performance. Iran obviously beating Wales 2-0, a very low point for Wales in their international. And then we rounded it out with Wales 0, England 3. Could have been more. I felt England took their foot off the gas a bit. But when Wales knew they needed to go out and score goals and stuff like that, and I think they played with one up front initially, they just, they had accepted their fate, really. And then the USA beating Iran 1-0 to seal their place in the next round with England and the USA getting through. Fantastic result in that group. Group C was our Argentina, Poland, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia. Again, a very interesting group, quite a competitive group. Argentina, of course, getting off to the worst start possible, getting beaten by Saudi Arabia 2-1. This was Saudi Arabia nearly winning the World Cup, if you notice and seen the celebrations. Saudi Arabia nearly declared it a public holiday after winning this, you know. Yeah, no problem, Morris. We catch on the playback later. Drop the likes. Anyone, if you're in the chat there or you're watching as well, make sure you're liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Really, really important. But Argentina getting off to the worst possible start, getting beat by Saudi Arabia 2-1. Celebrations were unbelievable. Even back in Saudi Arabia, it was unreal. And this is a massive win for Saudi Arabia. And Poland and Mexico rolled out a drab 0-0 to kick things off. Day two is where Argentina started to somewhat find their form, winning 2-0 against Mexico. I expected more from Mexico in this game. They kind of let me down a little bit. And Poland running out 2-0 winners against Saudi Arabia. I also expected Saudi Arabia to kind of ride that wave of success a little bit more. But obviously when they came up against Poland, the kind of the physicality of a Polish team and stuff like that was probably a bit too much for them. And then we rounded the group with Mexico beating Saudi Arabia 2-1. Saudi Arabia must have been partying. They were still celebrating that win against Argentina like it was the World Cup final. And Poland nil, Argentina 2. Argentina running out winner. So Argentina showing that. What's the crack, Eno? Eno joining us in the chat was talking earlier. How are you, pal? I hope you're having a good Saturday and enjoying your weekend with the kiddos and all that kind of stuff. So that rounded out Group C. Group D, we move on to. Again, France, Denmark, Tunisia, and Australia. And this is one where if you've been following the shorts I've been doing every day on the channel, you'll know we're dropping little predictions every morning and stuff like that. And this was the day where I said it. I said, anything can happen here and big names are going to go home. So we built this back on Tuesday, the 22nd of November. France with a very impressive win, 4-1. Mbappe really looking on it. Tunisia, not a great start for Denmark, a tough game and stuff like that. Day two in this group, France 2, Denmark 1. And then Denmark knew that they were in serious trouble at this stage. And Tunisia 0, Australia 1. The Aussies coming through, as they say. And this has been the real story of this World Cup, hasn't it? These lower ranked nations coming through. And it just goes to show when you do put 11 players on the pitch and they're willing to fight for each other and give it 110%. And if they've a little bit of structure and a little bit of coaching and stuff like that, anything can happen in these games. And then we rounded out the group with Tunisia 1, France 0. And Australia 1, Denmark 0. So Denmark and Tunisia going home, France and Australia progressing. Group E, which I have to say has been one of my favorite groups, I have to say, in terms of watching. And again, if there was ever going to be a shock, this was the one. I called it on the day. I said on this day, on the short, I said that I could see Belgium and Germany going home. And I was quite laughed at on TikTok as well. But who's laughing now, baby? Who's laughing now? But we started out Spain with a massive win, 7-0 against Costa Rica. Pedri, Gavi, Busquets, all these guys really on form at the moment. Morata chipping in and everything and all. Massive win. And Germany got beaten by Japan 2-1. Which was a huge upset in at the start of the group. Then we had Spain and Germany running out a 1-1 draw, and Costa Rica beating Japan 1-0. If there was ever a group that was wide open, then we rounded out. This is where it all got interesting. At one stage in that day, we were looking at it was Japan 2, Spain 1, Japan with the late show, and Costa Rica 2, Germany 4. The one thing I would say about this is at one stage, I'm sure FIFA must have been crapping themselves because we had lost Belgium, and we'll get into that in the next group. We were losing Germany, and we could have potentially lost Japan. We could have potentially lost Spain as well. Can you imagine the bloodbath for FIFA if we had lost all three of those? But Japan and Spain progressed. Costa Rica fell away after being 2-1 up, giving up goal. Kai Havertz came on and put on a real good show. Could have had a hat-trick and stuff like that. Out of the German side, he was probably one of the shining lights, I would imagine, with the other boy, Freukrak, who came on, the boy from Werder Bremen. But they were kind of the shining lights. Everyone else was, a real tough one. Slight goal. Ball was over the line, but sure, if they move on and it counts, that's the way it is, and we just have to get on with it. Then Group F. F, of course, was Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. So really, really interesting from this point of view. Of course, started out kind of drab. Morocco 0, Croatia 0, Belgium 1, Canada 0. Then round 2, Croatia 4, Canada 1, and Belgium 0, Morocco 2. That stage, Belgium knew they were in trouble. Then we got to the final day, Croatia 0, Belgium 0, Canada 1, Morocco 2. Croatia and Morocco progressing, Belgium going home. Lot of infighting and stuff like that in that Belgium squad and stuff like that. Kevin De Bruyne not happy with the way things were and stuff like that, and they played so poor. But if you remember that last game, that 0-0, Lukaku must have had about 4 or 5 chances and he couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. So disappointing on that stage, and especially for a team I think that's ranked number 2 in the world or something like that. Some big ranking teams going home at this stage in the group stage. Very disappointing. We heard afterwards Roberto Martinez left his Belgian manager. They kind of gave the information that it was kind of, this was the plan anyway. But yeah, that's, look, he had to move on and stuff like that. Such a disappointing campaign anyway. So that was that. Group G. Group G was one that was an interesting one as well. Should have been quite competitive. Brazil starting out. Obviously, we had Brazil beating Serbia 2-0. Switzerland winning 1-0 against Cameroon. Day 2, Brazil sneaking by Switzerland, Cameroon and Serbia playing out a fantastic 3-3 draw. This was kind of the game that nearly set the World Cup alight. We were starting to see goals and competitiveness and all that. Up till that point, it was kind of somewhat obvious, if you like. And then we rounded out the group. What a group last night. Serbia, Switzerland 3. I kind of fancied Serbia to get through, but they couldn't get the job done. And Cameroon winning 1-0 against Brazil. Who would have thought it? What a win. They're going home. It's a nice way to go home, beating Brazil 1-0. That will do wonders for you and stuff like that. And I was kind of sick for the lad who scored the goal as well, because he'd been booked and then he ran off at celebration, whipped his jersey off, and then the ref came over then and had to card him and send him off and give him a red card. So kind of overshadowed the goal and the win, but a massive win for Cameroon against Brazil. So that's how Group G rounded out. Group H. Group H, of course, was Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. And we're going to need to have a chat about this. Started out Portugal 3, Ghana 2, and Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. This is where Uruguay was coming a little bit unstuck. I mean, they had really good players and stuff like that. But some of the substitutions that they made were kind of a little bit strange. When you're going for a match and you're trying to get points on the board, it's vital in the group stages that you put some points on the board, obviously. But it's they really struggled. And what happened was they were taking off goal scorers to potential goal scorers, the substitute goal scorers on, instead of kind of having that little bit of courage and guile to go for it. But they didn't, and that's what happened. So 0-0 and 3-2 was Portugal and Ghana. Second round of fixtures, Portugal beat Uruguay 2-0. This was a real poor showing from Uruguay. A really poor showing from Uruguay. And not surprising in the end that they probably went home. And South Korea 2, Ghana 3. What a game this was. Unbelievable. So we go into the final round of fixtures when kind of everything was up for grabs, with the exception of Portugal. So South Korea beat Portugal 2-1. Again, another upset. And Ghana 0, Uruguay 2. So Uruguay went out on goals scored, as far as I know, because the thing was the goal difference was the same. Very upset Uruguay at the end of the game yesterday and stuff like that. Obviously, Darwin Núñez going home. Probably the last World Cup for Suarez, I would imagine. So bowing out, not great to bow out in the group stages. And also Cavani as well, probably his last World Cup as well. So we're seeing a lot of that at the moment. If you look on the Belgium side as well, you have a number of players there, probably it's their last World Cup as well. And you're also looking at Germany as well. You could see it in Thomas Muller and stuff like that. So some of these icons of European football and world football that we have followed starting to bow out in not necessarily the way you would expect them to bow out. But sure, that's neither here nor there. So that kind of sums up the groups and my thoughts on the groups and stuff like that, and what happened and stuff like that. So now we're going to take a look at the round of 16, which is always, the business end of how things are going to go and stuff like that. So and we get it round of 16. So this is your round of 16. Starting today, we have Netherlands versus USA and we have Argentina versus Australia. I've already given my thoughts on that. I think the Netherlands, I think it will be tough against the USA, but I think they'll have the skill and the experience to just shade it and get by the USA. Argentina versus Australia, again, I think it'll be an interesting one as well. Again, I don't think Argentina will have it all their own way. I probably expect them to win 3-1. If you look at Argentina, they really haven't been really at it, if you like. And Australia have done really, really well. They've galvanized themselves as a team. They're kind of physical in the way that they go out there. They work really, really hard for each other. And sometimes you get a situation where hard work just outdoes skill. But I think Argentina, they'll probably, again, have a bit too much. I expect both these games today to be quite tight. But I expect Netherlands and Argentina to run out winners, but not necessarily comfortable. France versus Poland. I expect France to beat Poland. I think France at times have been absolutely sublime. The Tchouameni, Camavinga midfield, Mbappe, unreal, Giroud. They've got so many options there, France. Even losing the players that they've lost. If you think about the list of players they've lost, Benzema, Kante, and Kunku, all these players and stuff like that, still a solid side going out there playing really, really good football. Griezmann at times can just come alive. Mbappe looks like he's absolutely electric and on it at the moment. And I would expect France to have too much for Poland, who again at times can look quite blunt. Again, where Poland might be able to do this is maybe in the physicality stakes. They might be able to rough Mbappe and a few of them up. And maybe get something out of that, or maybe try and win the battle in midfield by getting real physical with the likes of Tchouameni. Eno's surprised, he's in the comments, surprised that Canada are out of the World Cup. I'm not surprised at all. And Canada wouldn't really be a footballing nation and stuff like that again. They did really, really well to get there and stuff like that, but soccer and football would be way down their list of priorities in terms of sports. England versus Senegal, of course, coming to us tomorrow, along with France and Poland. So a great day of football tomorrow, two real good matches. England, again, I think they'll have too much to beat Senegal. I think what happens is Senegal can ride a certain wave, but then I think they'll probably get found out when they come up, when they really need that Sadio Mane on their side, that leader to push them along and bring them along. That's where it kind of gets a little bit found out. Japan versus Croatia. This is a real interesting one, and this is where I might get a little bit different with people. Obviously, Croatia would be the favourites to go through there, but this will be the tenacity and the kind of the guile of Japan versus the physicality of Croatia. And I'm not too sure what way that one's going to go yet. I'm going to sit on the fence on that one. I probably think Croatia, their strength will get them through and their experience. I think Japan sometimes goes on these waves and these rides and stuff like that, and they do really, really well. But then they tend to drop off. It tends to become too much for them. Brazil versus South Korea. I expect Brazil to go through. I don't think, again, it'll be an easy game. I think the one thing we've seen in this World Cup, and we've mentioned it a number of times in our international games, or our international shows, that there's no easy games in international football anymore now. A lot of these lower ranked nations now are starting to put in the right coaching and the right structure and the right scouting to bring their level of football up and stuff like that. And this World Cup has been a demonstration of that. But I would expect Brazil to go through. This is where my shock comes. My shock here now, Morocco versus Spain. I think Morocco are going to beat Spain. And that's a big call on a lot of people. Again, let us know in the chat what you think. I think this is one where Morocco are going to get through. I think Spain, where they're really good, they have really, really good players and stuff like that. I think when you have Morata up front and stuff like that, I think that's where you're going to struggle a little bit. I think he needs a lot of opportunities to score goals. I think Morocco are riding a wave at the moment. They've had some great results and stuff like that, but they're playing also really, really good football. I expect this to be really competitive, but I think Morocco might just shade this one. And then Portugal versus Switzerland. This is going to be a real good match. I think this is going to be one of the finely balanced matches in the round of 16. But I expect I expect Portugal to go through and beat Switzerland. Again, Portugal are going to need some of their big players to show up a lot more than what they've showed so far. Ronaldo's going to have a bigger influence. Let's see what Ruben Neves and players like that can do. But they're going to really have to show up against Switzerland. The one thing you know about Switzerland is they play like a real good unit, moving forward and back, really, really solid. Pretty strong at the back and stuff like that, solid going forward and competitive in midfield. So Portugal are going to have their hands full with Switzerland, but I expect Portugal to see it through. Breaking news from Gerard. Breaking news: Gabriel Jesus World Cup is over after picking up a knee injury during defeat to Cameroon last night. Massive blow for Arsenal. That's a huge blow, Gerard. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I wonder how severe it is. It'll be interesting. Probably have to go for a scan. But if Arsenal were to lose him, that would be massive at the moment. The only thing I would say, I think you've only got a couple of games before the transfer window opens. So, and I think you were probably going to go into the market for a couple of players anyway. It might change the dynamic of what way that's going to go. And with the trouble that's at Juventus at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal try and go in for Locatelli and Vlahovic, who they tried to sign last summer and stuff like that. And you might get him at a much more bargain price than what you originally offered from. So I could see Arsenal really going into the market in January to try and step forward. AFTV are live now. AFTV are always live. Shout out to Robbie and the boys as well over there. Bret Hart making claims that Canada has been screwed out of the World Cup. We don't need to worry about that. AFTV are live now. Yeah, absolutely. They're always live. I tell you the Don Robbie is at DR Sports over there with Flex and the boys. It's an absolute madness, the work that they're doing and stuff like that. It's incredible. Dave's LFC Chats is in the chat. How are you, Dave? Hope you're enjoying the World Cup. Hope you're well as well, producing some good content out there. Go over, check out Dave's channel. Absolutely fantastic for all things Liverpool and everything in between. And I have to say, buddy, there's plenty going on at Liverpool at the moment, isn't it? It's an absolute mare at the minute. We'll have to see. Vince McMahon screw Canada. Vince McMahon screw Brett screw Brett, as they say. Isn't that the way it goes? Let's see what happens anyway. So before we push on and we go into the thoughts on the round of 16, we go into the quarterfinals, semi-finals, try and predict the trio. Here's some of the Opta stuff that's being put in terms of the percentages for the teams and how they can go through. But you look at there, if you look at it from the top down, these are the higher percentages in terms of making it through to quarterfinals, semis, finals, and eventual winners. And they reckon if you look at the Opta stats at the moment, they're looking percentage-wise, it's looking like it's Brazil, Argentina, then potentially France, and England with Spain. And then there's a massive drop off to Portugal, Netherlands, and Croatia. Morocco way down there. Less than 1% chance. The 1%ers are basically from the USA all the way down to Australia. So it's not surprising the way it's come out in terms of the percentages and stuff like that. But it's just to give you a flavour even for getting through the quarterfinals. Now, where you do get a spanner in the works is where, someone like me, predicts, where did I have it? I predicted that potentially Morocco could knock Spain out. Then that absolutely turns this up, the predictions on their head, and then it's hard to know what way it'll flash out from there. But they are up the stats at the moment. You can see the teams highlighted in heavy red all the way down. They're the ones, and as it fades, there's the one with less opportunity to go through. But I don't think the way this World Cup has gone, I think it's it certainly is messy at Liverpool. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, Dave. Yeah, lots going on there at the moment. But it won't be long, buddy. Another couple of weeks, and we'll be back at it on that Liverpool train. No doubt about it. But yeah, you go across the top. I mean, Brazil are hot favourites all the way through and stuff like that. Argentina being second, France being third, England being fourth. So no surprise there in what we're saying. So let's go in. This next slide shows you my predictions for the quarters, which I called out. The black is who I think is going through. The red is who I think is going out. So we did the round of 16. So if you get into the quarters, the Netherlands versus Argentina, I think Argentina will go through there. I think they'll just have too much for the Netherlands. England versus France. This is where I think England might exit the tournament. I think France will take England out in the quarterfinals, and then Brazil will take out Japan, I think Japan will. I had said Croatia might be a little bit too strong for them, but I was on the fence with that one. But I'm actually thinking that Japan might go through. That would be my other upset. So Japan and Morocco are really my two upsets in terms of that going through. So I think Brazil will take out Japan. I think Morocco could also take out Portugal. I could see Morocco potentially going all the way to the semi-finals. That's how I see it. And then in the semis, I think France might take out Argentina, and I think Brazil will take out Morocco, and then our final will be France versus Brazil. That's how I think it's going to pan out. Of course, let us know in the comments what you think. In Brazil, I believe, are one of the favourites in this World Cup. Absolutely. They're one of the favourites in every World Cup, pal. There's never a World Cup that rolls around that Brazil are not the favourites. Most unusual or joint favourites, worst case. But that's what I'm predicting. I'm looking at a potential final there of France versus Brazil. So let us know your thoughts, what you think your semis are going to look like, what you think your quarters are going to look like, and what you're going to think is going to happen in the final. But that's my prediction. My prediction is in the round of 16, big wins for Japan and Morocco, knocking out Croatia and Spain. Everything else kind of more or less takes care of itself, even though some of the games are going to be quite tight. This has been your World Cup update with me, Niall, your host of the Upper Tier. If you could drop a like and a subscribe on the channel and on the video before you leave, and we will be back after the round of 16 with another World Cup update. Keep an eye out on the channel and stuff. That the Shankly Sessions will be back this week with an update on the goings on at Liverpool, and also an update on the players at the World Cup and how they're getting on. Kind of getting less and less as we proceed. And England's reluctance to use Jordan and to use Trent doesn't help the situation either if you're a Liverpool fan. But we will be waiting with bated breath to see how the rest of this World Cup pans out. Until next time, folks, an absolute pleasure.